What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Yammy Noob tries to answer all the questions he has received on Instagram for beginner riders. Yes, we are doing another beginner riders questions answered video. I love doing these. I get to sit down with you guys, very long form video, and just chat about bikes. It's a lot of fun. So if this is your first time checking out one of these videos, what we do here is we put up a question on Instagram, tell you guys, hey, if you're a beginner rider, if you want to learn anything about motorcycles as a beginner rider, drop me a question on Instagram and we'll try to answer it live on this video. So I've got loaded up here so many questions. I can't answer all of them, but I'm going to try to answer as many as I can. And it's going to be a ton of fun. One thing I wanted to shout out before we get started is that we have been putting a ton of effort into our store, YN Moto. You might see the shop.yammynoob.co. We've recently picked up Nelson Rig as a manufacturer that we carry on there. They make probably the industry leading saddle bags and commuter bags, universal as well. So any bike you've got, you can fit one of their tail bags or their tank bags. We've been using it on the FTR over here, and it's a really nice addition to any sport naked bike, a touring bike, anything like that. You add a lot of capability to your motorcycle. You can put stuff in there, documents, small groceries, anything you might need that you don't want to carry on yourself or a backpack. Hit the link down below and check out our Nelson Rig bags that we have available on shop.yammynoob.co. Without further ado, let's get into these questions. All right, first question of the day comes in from Grant Soren. He asks, would a DR650 or a KLR650 be a good beginner bike for a taller rider? I absolutely 100% think that if you are on the larger side, maybe 6'4" and above, a big dual sport makes a great entry-level option for you because the bikes are already so much larger. You're going to feel so much more comfortable on that than something like an MT-03. 650cc single-cylinder dual sport motorcycles also don't have that much horsepower. They've got a good amount of torque, but since you're a larger rider anyways on a bigger bike, it's not going to be a big deal over something like an MT-07 or anything like that. So if you're a taller rider, a bigger rider, definitely check out the tried and true KLR 650s, your DR 650s, XR 650s even though they're a little bit of a dinosaur at this point, as an entry-level bike. Gerard Warlord, 82 kilogram, asks, which will you pick, CB650R or MT-09? I would honestly pick the CB650R for a lot of reasons. We had one in 2019 as a giveaway bike. I really enjoyed it. I love the way that thing rode. It was actually pretty competent on track, which was very surprising. So I think I'd pick that one. The MT-09s we've had in the shop, I used to own an FZ-09. We've had one as a giveaway bike. They're the prior generation. I like those bikes, they're fun, but I think the CB650 is a more complete package despite not having face-melting torque like the MT-09. I have heard the new MT-09 is very, very nice though, and I'm dying to ride one. Max Barolds here asks, is my old dirt bike helmet safe enough to ride my 600 with? I probably wouldn't recommend it. Dirt bike helmets are built pretty differently over something like a street helmet, and they are designed to withstand pretty good amount of impact like you'd see on a motocross track in the trails, right? You hit a tree, whack your head. It's designed to withstand the impact. Where you're going to really notice the differences, especially if you have a peak, and the way they're constructed is how much louder those helmets are and how they're not really designed to slide across road surfaces and glance off of things like an Arai helmet, like a round profile helmet should be. Don't skimp out on your head safety. Get a proper street helmet if you're going to be riding a 600 around on the street. Fat CYC asks, when looking for a bike to buy, how do I choose what style of bike to buy? For your first one, man, I really would say that it's whatever your heart is drawn to for the first one, because you don't know yet, right? I remember when I started riding, I thought dirt bikes looked goofy. I thought they looked stupid. I thought dual sports looked kind of stupid. Now they're one of my favorite categories of motorcycles because I understand what they're designed to be used for, right? So for your first one, man, just whatever one you think looks cool. I think that's what most people do because that's the fun of having your first motorcycle is wanting to look at it and love it and enjoy it. So whatever you feel drawn to, if that's a naked bike, do that. If it's a fully faired bike, do that. And stay within that beginner bike confines. Obviously don't go get an R1 because you think it looks cool. That's a bad idea. Vivesh21 asks, are Arai helmets worth the price tag? Do they get uncomfortable for long rides? Yes, Arais are definitely worth the price tag. You can get into an entry-level Arais for as little as $450. Obviously, you can go all the way up to over $1,000 on some of the Corsair X's with the fancy paint jobs and stuff. But your base level Arais, something like a Defiant X, you can go to your local Cycle Gear or something like that. Put one on versus another helmet, you will immediately notice the difference in fitment and comfort and quality of materials. Premium helmets are just so much nicer to ride with and so much better to get along with for longer rides. But one thing to note is that a more expensive helmet does not always equal a more safe helmet, right? If the two helmets you're looking at are both ECE rated, Snell rated, DOT rated, they have all their ratings, I wouldn't necessarily worry about their safety in terms of the price going up, but I definitely think Arais are worth it because, well, I only have Arais. That's all I put on my head. Sonny18 asks, what is the easiest way to overcome the fear of riding a bike apart from actually doing it? There's really no way to overcome the fear of riding until you just jump on and see that it's not so bad. We actually put out a really great video where Whitney taught her friend Megan how to kind of ride a little bit for the first time, not like actually how to ride a bike, but just kind of poodle around in a parking lot and just feel it out. Motorcycles are much less scary once you've actually been near one and turned one on yourself and ridden it yourself, and you realize that you have nothing to worry about when it comes to them. They're a machine and they'll do exactly what you tell them to do. They don't normally do things you don't ask them to do. And they want to stay upright, which is pretty cool. So I would say the best way to overcome your fear, if you have one, of riding for the first time, if you got someone who has a motorcycle, just be near one, you know, just approach one, sit on one, don't ride it just yet, but you'll notice a big reduction in your nervousness and your fear once you've actually been near one and on one. Freedom Chris asks, not beginner, but how to get back to riding after a rough accident. This is one I get a lot on my Discord server. I've actually had this question a lot because, as you guys know, I've had a pretty brutal accident many, many years ago. But the best way to do it is to take it at your own pace. If someone is telling you that, oh, within 3 months you should be back on the bike, get back on the bike as fast as you can, don't listen to what anyone else is telling you about how fast you need to get back on your bike. You need to get to a point where you are mentally confident enough and mentally secure enough to get back on your motorcycle and to ride again. And the best way you can do that is to understand what went wrong the last time you had your accident. If you had a case where you low-sided on your favorite twisty road, think about it, like, okay, did I carry too much brake into my corner? Did I give it too much gas too early before my apex? Did I slide out because of that? Were the road conditions bad? Was I not paying attention? Did I fail to notice or see something? Because it doesn't take much to have a motorcycle accident, and as motorcyclists, we have to always be vigilant and determined to not have accidents. If it unfortunately was something like someone rear-ending you or someone else's fault, it can be a little harder to overcome that fear because everybody you see is going to look like a target to you and you're going to think that they're coming after you. But you have to think about the fact that the statistics are on your side and it is more likely than not going to be okay that you ride your motorcycle and not get hurt than to get hurt again. So take your time, evaluate your situation, evaluate what happened, and when you are ready, reapproach the motorcycle if you want. If you don't want to, no one's forcing you to ride again. Yusuf Khan asks, is it necessary to start on a smaller bike? Can I just start on a 650 if it is tamer than a 600? 650s are great starting points for a lot of people, not for everybody. I think for some folks, the 650 is still a bit too powerful, a bit too much for their first motorcycle. But yeah, 650 is a great starting point. Your SV 650s, your Ninja 650s, even an MT-07, even though it is a little wheelie happy, you know, those bikes are all really, really solid starter motorcycles that a more mature and respectful rider can definitely start on. Cycle Leo 7 says, on my first ride, I didn't lead my bike and almost crashed a few times, so I know it's repetitive, but stress leaning so people understand. Yeah, so this is something I've seen kind of more often and more common now, or people saying that they didn't think that they needed to lean or couldn't lean their bike because, and this is something you guys have heard me say this a ton, but you know, when you ride a motorcycle at slow speeds in a parking lot, you're leaning in a totally different way than when you lean at speeds, because in a parking lot situation under like 5-10 miles an hour, you're counter leaning the bike, right? Like your weight's going one way, the bike's falling to the other way, and you're just leaning that bike over that way. But when you're at speed, you lean with the bike. Now, it's not to say that you can't do that in a parking lot. It just feels a little awkward and not as confidence inspiring to be banging out trying to knee drag in a parking lot. But a lot of newer riders get a little spooked when they're finally going 30, 40 miles an hour and they have to take a sweeper and realize that they have to go with the bike to take it to where they want to go. So yeah, if you're a newer rider, as Cycle Lee here says, know that first time you lean it into a corner, it's gonna feel a little weird. Spite actually had a story about that on our What Motorcycles Mean to Us video, where the first time he actually took a corner and actually had to lean the bike over, he thought he was gonna go down. I think everyone's had that. I think mine was a big overpass sweeper that I took on my second day of riding, where I was like, I'm gonna fall off this bridge and I'm just gonna fall right over and die. So that was fun. Good life I had, I guess. T-Leo96 asks, what is more important, a good pair of boots or a good pair of pants? This is going to be very controversial, and you're going to see a lot of difference of opinions on this. It's something that Ryan, Fortnine, and I both align on, and when I said it, everyone got mad at me, and when he said it, everyone praised him, so you never know, but don't shoot the messenger, right? I personally believe that a good pair of sturdy boots is more important than a pair of pants when it comes to riding. The reason I say that is because most beginner riders are going to have problems in slow speed situations where they're gonna tip the bike over and it's gonna fall over on them. It is very easy to have a peg go through your calf, through your ankle, a hard part on that bike falling over. And let me tell you, maybe the bike doesn't feel that heavy, but when something weighs 350, 400 pounds and it falls on one localized point on your foot, that is a bad place to be. And you definitely want motorcycle protection for your boots. As you guys know, I'm very fond of goofing around off-road on trails and dumb stuff like that. And I can't even begin to tell you the amount of times that a sturdy pair of boots has saved my bacon from having a very serious injury to one where you just kind of get up and laugh it off. So I think motorcycle boots are a no compromises must-have item, especially over pants. My name is Riven asks, how to take off on a hill 10 out of 10 times without stalling? Very simple, rear brake. If you're on a hill, all you need to do is keep your left foot down over here, keep your right foot on your rear brake, feather the clutch, add gas. You'll feel the bike want to lurch back, but you're covering that rear brake, so you got it locked in. Once you feel it adding power, let off the rear brake and you're good to go. I can say with 100% confidence that you give me any hill and I won't stall the bike on it. Yeah, it's not very hard once you figure it out, but it's a balancing act between 3 points on your body, right? So you've got your right foot, your left hand, and your throttle. So you have to let off the rear brake, add gas, let off the clutch, and then you'll be good to go. But it's a bit of a coordination between all three. And especially keeping your left foot down in case, as a newer rider, you tip it over or something happens. At least you've got 50% of your body covered over on this side. Saran S. Gerard asks 2 questions, and I'm going to answer the first one. They ask, do you still hate the Harley Sportster? I wouldn't say so. It's not that I hate the bike, it's that it's just not for me. And it's totally fine if you ride something and you have determined after many times of riding it that it is just simply not the right bike for you. And as you guys who are beginner riders ride more motorcycles, you'll notice that most of them, all of them basically, they're fun, right? 2-wheel things with engines in the middle, they're a ton of fun. It doesn't matter what shape or size they come in, they're almost always fun. But we all have different tastes and preferences when it comes to motorcycles, and the Sportster just doesn't really do it for me. It's really not something that I enjoyed very much, and it's just not a bike that fits me. Once we did the 1275 swap on it, I thought it was more interesting because it was kind of rowdier and hectic and crazy, but just not my bike. And Saran Esjaw also asks, are you still a street squid deep down inside? And we made a whole video about this, about taming those squid demons. And I definitely would not say that I'm still a street squid, because the amount of times I squid on the street is very infrequent nowadays. Most of my time on motorcycles is spent on track, on trails, on motocross tracks. I only really ride on street to make YouTube videos, and just on the rare chance I get some time, I might jump on my desert sled and just bop around town a little bit, but I don't even ride that thing super hard or fast. I just go out to enjoy myself. So I really wouldn't say I still am in that mode, honestly. Eli45 asks, how long do you ride your first bike before upgrading? We literally just put out a video about that today when I'm filming it, so go and check that out. Okay, Jack of 7 here asks a great question. That's one I want to answer. He says, what gear stays coolest in hot weather? Colors, materials, or styles, maybe? You want to look for perforated gear, you want to look for textile gear, and you want to look for it in colors that are not black, especially your helmet. People overlook this, but the more white you have on your gear, the more it's going to reflect the sunlight. The more perforation you have, the more airflow can get through once you're moving. So as long as you make your gear more bright colored, more white, and more perforation, that's going to make it a lot better for you to manage the heat. The last thing you want on a hot day is a non-perforated black leather jacket with a black helmet. It makes a big difference, and it's why my race suit that I have is mostly white and it's perforated, and it makes a massive difference for temperature management. Pedro B&M asks, my first bike was a Dyna Fat Bob. Interesting. 6 years later, I traded it for a Daytona 675R. Nice. Now I'm much more scared to do spirited riding. Is this normal? Abraços do Brasil. What's up, Brazil? Yes. So, how do I put this? Sometimes when you swap from one bike to another, your confidence level can go down just simply because of the ergonomics package on the bike. If you've been riding a Dyna Fat Bob, Dyna Fat Bob, I don't know these Harley names, and you're used to having your feet in front of you and the bars up high, and all of a sudden you go to this position, way leaned over, butt up in the air, you know, you're gonna be not as confident on that bike just because that's so different than what you were used to riding in the past. It's not always just power. I think a lot of beginners get in their mind that it's like, oh, it's the power of the bike that's gonna make me feel comfortable or uncomfortable. But it's so much more than that. It's seat height, it's ergonomics, it's weight as well. A lightweight, simple bike is gonna be way more confidence inspiring than a big, heavy bike, right? And regardless of power. So I would think about that rather than just being the fact that, you know, is this normal that I'm scared of this bike? Because it might not be the bike you're scared of, it might just be the riding position and you don't feel like you're as confident over it. Tobias here asks, his penis is stuck in the exhaust, please help. Use a generous amount of lube. We sell chain lube on the store? No, we don't. We don't sell chain lube on the store, but go to your local store, get some chain lube, get that out of there. Jim on 2 Wheels asks, why does the age of the tires matter? It's interesting you ask this because Ari Henning did a great video kind of debunking this myth and rethinking it. And it's not so much the age of the tire, it's the quality with which the tire was kept in, from what I understand. So if you leave a tire outside, it's going to be much less effective than a tire that's kept inside, for example. Like, there's all these factors that come into play that will age tire rubber if you don't care for it as well. So I definitely recommend you check out that video if you want to learn more. Ari did a great job and a deep dive on tire age there, much more than I can get into in this video. Young Bob asks, what's better, the Ninja 400 or 650? Price is not really a concern. I like the 650 for the looks and the 400 for the MPG. I've ridden both of those bikes. The 400 is just way better. It's more fun, it's more agile, it's way more ready to go for track days as well. You'll see a lot of guys running prepped 400s versus prepped 650s. Nobody really does Ninja 650s at the track except a couple people. But yeah, I think the 400 is definitely the way to go. Camden Chicagoan asks, recommended track day CC for each level of rider. There's really no correlation between skill set on track and the CCs with which you're using. You'll see expert level riders sometimes riding around on 400s just to reacclimate their skill sets or practice something in particular. You'll see beginner riders on leader bikes that they have no business being on. So I would recommend, if you're an entry level rider, stick to the 650 and 400 class bikes. If you're an intermediate rider, the 600 class is just about perfect. And then for expert level riders, I still think the 600 class is going to teach you, and you're really going to be able to go fast on those bikes meaningfully. If you have the budget for tires, go for a liter bike, why not? But they are definitely more expensive to run and to repair. Dario Gonzalez Hirsch here asks, how much horsepower is too much horsepower? And I think the kind of cool answer would be like, it's never enough horsepower. But there is definitely a point where you're kind of just like, what's the point of all this power? You know what I mean? On the street, honestly, it's over about 150 horsepower. You start really questioning why you even have that much horsepower. Torque is a lot more fun than horsepower anyways. I'd much rather have something like a Duke 1290 on the street than a Fireblade, for example. It just makes more torque. But I would genuinely say that anything over 160 horsepower is kind of useless unless you really know what you're doing on a racetrack, because on the street it's pointless. And functionally speaking, I think anything over 250 at the wheel, 260 at the wheel is also functionally useless. So there's that. Robert Lizarraga Ultra Hugs asks, as a beginner track rider, should I sell my 600 or work with what I've got? Man, it depends on your financial situation. If you have the means, I would definitely recommend getting a smaller bike. Get a 400 or a 650. You're gonna learn more and learn faster on that bike. So it's kind of a trade-off, right? You ask yourself, if I got myself a 400, how much would I learn in a year of regular track time versus a 600 that I'm not using as much or can't use as much, or I'm spending more to use it in the same way. Seat time is the most important thing when it comes to track riding. It's not necessarily the bike you have, it's how much time you're in the saddle and what you're practicing and how often you're going. That's what I would recommend. Tathaya888 asks, if I've been riding 100 to 200 cc bikes for 5 years, can I jump directly to 1000 cc's? It wouldn't be wise. You are really gonna scare yourself. That's why we have so many bikes between 200 and 1000 cc's, right? You should definitely just get something like an MT-07 to acclimate yourself to proper torque and big power, a Z900 even, which is almost 1000 cc's, a Duke 790. I mean, there's so many great middle-ish weight motorcycles that there's really no need to jump direct to a 1000, in my opinion. It's Lewis Lee asks me, what's your favorite beginner's bike? I still think it's the Svartbillen 401. I've yet to ride a beginner bike in that category that is as fun, as capable in many different scenarios, as well equipped with its fully adjustable suspension. I really like the Svartbillen 401. It's still my #1 choice for beginner riders. And it's pretty cheap too, like $5,000 gets it done for that bike. Beyond that, I still think the R3, the MT-03 platforms make a great choice. Although I do think the Ninja 400s have them beat because you can grow with them and learn with them. So if it were me, Svartbillen 401 or Ninja 400, one or the other. Queso17 asks, asking for a friend who keeps insisting, can you explain to him why a Trail 125 is a bad beginner bike? Well, it's not that the Trail 125 is a bad beginner bike per se, it's that it's not going to teach you everything that a normal full-sized motorcycle could teach you. It might teach you some bad habits. I think the Trail 125 is a great bike for super young people, right? 12, 13 years old, get them on there, have them feel it out. Or it's a great motorcycle for someone who's been riding for a long time and wants a play bike sort of thing. If you are not in one of those categories, I really don't think it makes sense to get one of those as your first motorcycle, because you're just gonna kind of waste time where you could have bought a normal full-sized motorcycle and started learning how to use a clutch and actually respect the throttle and do all that, because you can't respect the throttle on a Trail 125. You just twist and go and whack it as much as you want. It just does whatever it's gonna do. Yeah, I really don't recommend that. Zakata Q8 asks, what is a good amount to set aside for gear and what should I buy new versus used? Great question. So I think that the budget you should probably set for this, and it's gonna wildly depend on your area and your personal budget and your finances, right? But I really think that you should probably budget about $800 for your beginner rider kit. The stuff you wanna buy brand new is a helmet. Without a doubt, you want to buy a helmet brand new. do not buy a used helmet. It's just not a great idea. You never know if it was dropped. You never know the structural integrity of the helmet, and playing around with your brain is not something you want to do. Don't cheap out on that. Get a good, solid, new helmet. That's the most important thing. The next steps, stuff that you could buy used would be gloves and boots if they're in good condition, and those can be a little bit more, they can have some love, a little bit worn in, they could have some scuff marks. As long as they're structurally sound, you should be good to go. Same with your jacket and pants if you want to as well. Your jacket should have all of its armor in place, no holes, no tears, and then that's pretty much it. So you can basically buy all the other stuff used, but just buy a new helmet for the love of God. We sell them on our store if you want. Go buy them there. Pandan asks, what's the proper order of movements while rev matching? I made a whole video about that. You should definitely check it out. I pretty much break it down just step by step in super detail of how to rev match on a motorcycle, and I'm gonna do a better job in that video than I'm gonna do here. And it's crazy to think that video is almost 3 years old. Holy crap. Jay Bouldering asks, are all Italian bikes expensive on maintenance, or is it just Ducatis? Ducatis in particular are a little bit more maintenance heavy because of their desmodromic valves. That's a very specific job that you need specific tools for and a specific knowledge set for as well. But it's not to say that all Ducatis are expensive to own and maintain. Spite made that video where he showed you guys that Ducatis can be more expensive than their Japanese counterparts. But other Italian motorcycles like Aprilias, MV Agustas, those sort of things. It just depends on the model a lot of times and parts availability. I feel like Aprilias are not that expensive as compared to Ducatis. MV Agustas are definitely expensive just because they're so rare and hard to find and hard to work on. So take that with what you will, with a grain of salt. Zach00 asks, what is the etiquette when another rider you don't know tailgates you? This is a great question, man, because I think a lot of entry-level and beginner riders get it in their head if they've got somebody chasing them down their favorite canyon road or something, they've got to keep pace and keep up. But the best thing you should do, and it's the safest thing you should do, if someone's right behind you and they don't have the courtesy to just pass you, just pull off. Pull off, let them go. You've got nothing to lose, everything to gain. Keep yourself safe. There's no reason for you to be outriding yourself or your skill set on your motorcycle just because someone's right behind you. And vice versa. If you come across somebody and they're a little bit slower and you can't find a safe way to pass, just pull off and wait 5-10 minutes and then go about your day and continue on. Especially with people you don't know and you're not communicating with on a cardo or something like that. You have no idea where this dude's headspace is at. You don't know his experience level. You don't know if he's on drugs. You don't know anything about this guy. Random riders, I am very reluctant to even be near while I'm riding myself personally. MTZ4The asks, do I pull in the clutch when approaching a corner during normal street driving? No, you should definitely not just be coasting through corners with your clutch in. That's bad technique. You should select the appropriate gear for your corner before you're in that corner. So if you're coming up on a left-hand turn, looks to be about 20 or 30 mile per hour turn, you're in 4th gear, maybe you want to grab down 2 gears and be fully in that gear as you tip it in. Again, that's for entry-level riders. I'm not talking track techniques where you're banging off gears and pile driving the trail braking. This is for normal street riding, right, where you're going to approach a corner, slow it down, grab a couple gears, be fully in that gear, and then take your turn. Don't take the turn and be pulling the clutch and trying to take it. That's not a good idea because you're also changing the inertia of the engine, and that's going to change the way it handles as well if you're taking a corner at 1,500 RPM versus 8,000 RPM, right? It's very different. DanBeLike that asks, how to deal with getting bored of your beginner/low-powered bike. If you're bored of your beginner bike, that means you are not trying enough new things with your motorcycle. I guarantee you there's stuff you haven't done with your bike yet if you're bored with your beginner bike. Go and take it on gravel. Go ride your bike on a grassy pit, not a wet grassy pit, and don't blame me if you crash. Go and take it on a big long trip. Go and try to wheelie it. Go and try to jump it off of something. Just do as much as you can with it and try new stuff with your motorcycle because I guarantee you there's stuff you haven't done with it yet. Go to a track day with it. Go take it down some trails. Just go see what you can do with this motorcycle before you tell yourself that you're bored with it and you just want more power, you know, because there's lots more to a motorcycle than just the power, as we mentioned. Igor asks, I'm 27 years old and my question is it okay to buy a 600cc bike? I plan to buy adventure bike. Okay, so if you're 27, you want a 600cc adventure bike, I'm assuming you're gonna get something like a Tenere 700 or maybe a V-Strom 650, something like that. Totally appropriate, especially if you're older, maybe you're a larger guy, you wanna go touring with it. I don't think that's too crazy, but definitely have some caution because a Tenere 700, a V-Strom 650, again, 650 class bike, still powerful, still something you gotta look out for. So I don't think it's that crazy, but when you say 600cc bike, my mind thinks R6, 636, those sorts of things. So maybe just be a little more clear with when you're saying that. Capitalized Colton asks, is ABS worth getting as a beginner? I think that if you can get a motorcycle with ABS, you definitely should because there's basically no downsides to having ABS and only upsides. You know, ABS is designed to work for you there on the days that you're tired, on the days you're not paying attention, and it's gonna help save your bacon whenever you inevitably stamp on the rear brake too hard or the front brake too hard as a beginner rider, and it's gonna make it so that your front wheel doesn't lock up or your rear wheel doesn't lock up and scare you. I think ABS is a great innovation on motorcycles, and there's basically no downside to having one as a beginner rider. And like things like Groms nowadays have ABS, so basically any bike you grab should have ABS. Amaral Chic 21 asks, does clutchless upshifting have any negative effects on your transmission? I don't think so, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't. The reason that it doesn't is because motorcycles have sequential gearboxes with a certain type of teeth. I can't remember the name. And basically when you clutchless upshift, you're just kind of grabbing the next tooth on that transmission and it's not gonna hurt the bike in any way. It's the same way in a car, really. If you've ever driven a manual transmission car, there's a certain rev range where you can just pop it out of gear and grab the next gear. It's basically the same thing on a motorcycle, except you can let off the gas and slip a gear in most revs. It doesn't really do damage to your transmission, not that I've seen. Gasolina Agua asks, I heard that wind can hurt your ears if you ride long distances. Is this true? And if it is, how can I prevent it? It is. Wind can really mess up your hearing, and prolonged exposure to wind inside of a helmet is going to make you deaf long term. It's going to cause some serious hearing damage. The best way to prevent this is to wear earplugs. I wear earplugs every single time that I ride. Most riders that are worth their salt that I've seen also do too. It's something that it doesn't really take away from the motorcycle because all it's gonna do is dampen the crazy wind noises, and you can still hear all the other noises on the bike. You can hear the horn, you can hear other cars, you can still hear and experience things, but it's going to massively reduce the intake amount of sound that you're getting on your ear canal. And it's very important to do that. Otherwise you're gonna have hearing damage from the wind. Avalos asks, should I get a dirt bike? I already have a street bike. Absolutely you should get a dirt bike. Dirt bikes are so much fun. I have a KTM 250 that I was literally riding motocross yesterday. It is the best thing ever. It's so much fun, so much fun. Get a dirt bike. All right guys, rounding us out today, I've got 3 questions from some guys that I know IRL. Bankshift Bill asks, how do I reach 6th GAR? You need more of this, my friend. You need more of this. You need to crash on track and less of this. Just do this more and do this less, and you will achieve 6th GAR. You'll warp into a new time and space and be amongst our squid-like people. It'll be so great. JLore12, my motocross buddy, asked how to ride a dirt bike on a track. I'm not the right guy to ask that. Someone should ask you that, John. Fojack, my buddy here, asked how to put gas in a motorcycle. I don't know, dude. You just kind of spray them with gas and hope that it kind of sticks in there. That's what I do. And I've been, you know, I'm a little smelly, but I can still ride to where I need to go to. So I think that technique works. But with that, thank you everyone for submitting your questions. I hope you've enjoyed this long form video. Remember, we sell the new Nelson Rig bags over on shop.yammynoob.co. You can also support us by buying a shirt or just signing up on yammynoob.co, or just for the love of God, subscribe to the channel. Just do it. Just subscribe to the channel because I know 42% of you watching this video right now are not subscribed because my analytics tells me that. Just subscribe so we can reveal the Turbo Hayabusa. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later. Keep watching Yami No.